What up, Cucks? It's your boy, the Hater, up in this mug. Hater outdoors in this piece. And I wanted to do a quick video about the WWE draft that they had in April. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Hater, you're 4 months late to the party, kid. What are you doing about this draft? Well, stick around and find out, because the point that I want to make centers around the picks in the draft versus the value that those picks have gotten, you know? So in order to do that, I have opened up the Wikipedia page of the WWE draft, because this is going to tell us the order of every pick, right? Now, don't forget, everyone, that this draft was like a 2-night draft. So the number one pick is not necessarily the number one pick, because there's 2 nights of the draft. So maybe night 2 is better than night 1. But nevertheless, the way that WWE treats it, because all they do nowadays is they take concepts that work and they multiply them by 2. So you have 2 of everything, right? First, it was WWE champions. Now there's 2 of them. Then it was, King of the Ring winners. Now there's a women's and a men's. Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, everything. There's 2 of them, right? Like number 1 draft picks. There's 2 number 1 draft picks, right? There's the one from night 1 and the one from night 2. So for whatever reason, that's how they're doing it. So that's how we're treating it as well. Now, also remember that in this draft, the champions were not available to be drafted. So the main thing that I want to talk about here in night 1 is that the first draft pick was Bianca Belair from SmackDown. Now, this was obviously the inferior of the 2 nights, because the second draft pick was Jey Uso, followed by Carmelo Hayes. For some reason, Seth Rollins, who was literally the champion like the night before this, right? Or whatever, at WrestleMania a few weeks before, Seth Rollins gets drafted to Raw. Maybe he was injured, so they didn't care about him, but I don't know how Seth Rollins gets drafted at 4, while Uso and Carmelo Hayes get drafted above him. Then Orton, then Braun Breaker, then we don't care. You know what I'm saying? We'll stop it. We're stopping it at overall pick number 6, Braun Breaker. Looking at these guys, right, the people that have really stepped up, obviously, are Braun Breaker, and that's it. Everybody else here is exactly where they were before the draft. Seth Rollins isn't around. Randy Orton is essentially a mid-carder at this point. Carmelo Hayes is dead in the water. His run has been a colossal failure. But no bigger failure exists than Bianca Belair. Being picked number 1 should indicate that for the next year, this woman's going to be on top. Now, if we scroll all the way down to night 1, we will look at night 1 supplemental picks, motherfucks. And we will see some people that have done much better, right? So the one that comes to mind here, of course, is Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, right? They were drafted to Raw, apparently, and they became the tag team champions. So this supplemental jobber tag team, you got 2 of them for free, was better than Bianca Belair, who was SmackDown's number 1 pick, because Bianca Belair is in the tag team title picture and is not doing anything with that. Likewise, on night 2, we start off with Imperium. This was obviously a good pick. Gunther is now the Raw champion, so it's important for Raw to have this jobber on their roster, right? Because he's championship material, if you will. Next up, we have Jade Cargill, the other half of the Bianca Belair Jade Cargill tag team. So she's the number 2 overall pick, but she's the number 1 pick from SmackDown on night 2. So night 1, SmackDown picks Bianca Belair as number 1. Night 2, they pick Jade Cargill as number 1. So now let's put that into perspective. The night 1 pick of SmackDown and the night 1 pick of SmackDown, the night 2 number 1 pick of SmackDown combined are lesser than the supplemental draft pick of Raw on night 1. So this can only be explained by shit booking, right? That's what's brought us to the dance, motherfucks. Shit booking. Nothing else and nothing more. After this, Damage Control gets drafted 3rd by SmackDown, and then Cucky Owens gets drafted by SmackDown. I guess Damage Control was drafted to Raw from SmackDown. Then CM Punk gets drafted from Raw to Raw. Nobody cares at all. He's done fucking nothing, Then, but it's actually a very reasonable pick, because after that we've got the Pride, Bobby Lashley, who I think is gone, and the Street Profits, who otherwise wouldn't be this high up. Then we got Braun Strowman, who's done nothing. Tiffany Stratton, who's done nothing. The LWO, who's done nothing. Bill Legado La Fantasma, who's done nothing. Drew McIntyre, who's done nothing. Shinsuke Nakamura, motherfucks, was drafted from Raw to SmackDown before the Judgment Day, and I believe that Nakamura has yet to appear on SmackDown from this draft. So this is just disrespectful at this point to you know, groups like the Judgment Day, which have been carrying Raw. And this is the Judgment Day without Rhea and without Damian Priest, because they were the champions, remember? But this Judgment Day is now the current Judgment Day, and they have Liv Morgan, right? Then we got Naomi, Ilya Dragunov, New Day, a bunch of jobbers. So it's like, I don't even know who these jobbers are. Second to last is Bronson Reed, who's getting a huge push. And basically, this just shows how complete shit the roster is, right? You have a bunch of people that aren't doing anything up in this mug. And, you know, it is what it is, but think about it logically. You know what I mean? Nothing has come from this draft, and nobody that was supposed to get a push has gotten a push. If this draft were to be followed, you would expect Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair to be like massive stars by now, and they're not. You would expect Kevin Owens, who was drafted in the first round, to be a big player, and he's not. You would expect CM Punk to be wrestling more, and he's not. You would expect the Pride to be a big deal. Everybody that I mentioned to be a big deal, and they're not. It's like, once you get past the top 6 picks, right? Like after, Braun Breaker, you got like LA Knight, Ricochet, who's gone, the Bloodline, who obviously is doing very well. And this was only Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga, because they also got like 2 other people now. So, you know, I'm sure they're doing better. But like Sheamus is drafted after the Bloodline, and Sheamus has been much better for the WWE, along with AJ Styles, who's next, and Alpha Academy, which also involved Chad Gable at that point. Like, all these people have been doing much better than, like, let's say Ricochet or Nia Jax or Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes is picked 3rd overall. LA Knight is picked 9th overall. Like, who thought in April that Carmelo Hayes was going to have a better 4 months than LA Knight? Nobody. You know what I mean? They tried to boost him with this draft, but ultimately it was all for naught, because nobody gives a flying fuck about Carmelo Hayes or Ilya Dragunov. No NXT guy is exciting anymore. They just debut with the draft or randomly once in a while. Nobody gives a flying fuck, and then usually they're back to NXT or they're released, you know? Since then, the Wyatt family has debuted. They've stolen some thunder. Roman Reigns has come back, and for some reason, he wasn't part of the draft. I mean, I guess maybe he was part of the Bloodline, like, it's unclear, you know? But, I mean, I suppose, like, by drafting the Bloodline, you know, which should have been the first pick, because the Bloodline is where Roman Reigns is going to end up. You know what I mean? Even if Roman Reigns comes back to Raw, which is very possible at some point, the idea still stands, right? Like, he's going to go after the Bloodline, so you're going to see him on SmackDown before you see his monkey ass on Raw. But that also hasn't paid any dividends, right? If anything, it's like nobody really has lived up to their hype at all. Then you have people like Kiana James, who was supposed to be a big deal when she was drafted. She's done nothing. I mean, hell, motherfucks. Like, if we're being 100% here, it really seems like, I mean, like, everybody here is a complete jobber. But it's to the point now where, like, Lyra Valkyria, who was drafted 19th on day 2, right? She's probably had a better year than 95% of the people drafted. Like, Lyra Valkyria has had a better 4 months than the New Day. She's had a better 4 months than Pretty Deadly. A better 4 months than Ilya Dragunov, by far. A better 4 months than Naomi. A better 4 months, obviously, than Nakamura. So it's like, what are we doing here, motherfucks? It's like Lyra Valkyria is, like, now one of the people that's, like, consistently on Raw. And the people that I just mentioned are consistently nowhere to be seen. So this really, really kind of, like, points the gun at literally everybody in either the Raw or the SmackDown roster. It's like, there's such little wrestling, right? There's like 5 matches in a 3-hour show, and the people that wrestle are the same every week. Like, you're gonna see, you know, Alpha Academy. You're gonna see, like, Bronson Reed now. You're gonna see A-Town Down Under. You know what I mean? You're gonna see, like, occasionally you might see DIY and the Street Profits, like, 1 week yes, 1 week no. That's basically it, motherfucks. You're going to see LA Knight every 3 or 4 weeks, and that's it. Nobody else is wrestling. It's like everyone that I just mentioned right now is basically the WWE roster, right? Oh, sorry, Judgment Day as well, and LWO. Those are the only people that are wrestling consistently or semi-consistently. Everybody else is just waits for pay-per-views. You know what I mean? Rhea Ripley, she's had one match. She's been back like 2.5 months. Damian Priest, he's had some matches. I'm not gonna lie, but like he hasn't had one on Raw in several weeks, I don't think. And I get it. He's been active in other ways. So, but there you go. This draft retrospective shows that the draft has been a colossal failure, and this pretty much takes away all the power of the next draft, because I have no assurances that he or she who gets drafted first is going to have a good year, right? So like at this point, it's looking like Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Certainly not both of them are going to have a good year, right? Because at this rate, it didn't happen at SummerSlam. Maybe at WrestleMania, it's Jade versus Bianca, right? I hope Jade wins, and then Bianca needs to be drafted last. So there you have it. But whatever, it doesn't matter. This was just a draft retrospective, and the truth, as usual, has been spoken. Cuckolds.